It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Welcome into the Take Command podcast, instant reaction show. And unfortunately, Logan, we are sitting at FedEx Field with another big number next to the visitor and a not so big number against the home, or sitting next to the home team's name. And unfortunately, this is kind of what we expected. I think that one of the things that we knew coming in is Miami was a very, very good team with very specific strengths, and those strengths match up very well with the Commanders' weaknesses, and I feel like that is the main point to take away today.
100%, absolutely. Cody Barton did an excellent job on some RPO stuff that I wasn't quite expecting. So I thought that was nice. I thought Percy Butler did some good stuff. I thought KJ Henry flashed. I thought Casey Duhill played the run well, some of that toss crack stuff. But they gave up 2 explosive plays, and it looked like one of them was a coverage bust. And like those things kind of keep popping their heads up, and that's 14 points right there. Then you have an interception return for a touchdown, and against a good football team like Miami, obviously that's not going to cut it.
And
right?
when those happen in the game, like their game flow is a disaster. You're down 31-7 at half, and you're just like, what do you do at that point?
No, I'm totally with that. And so I think there are some positive things. I think B-Rob's running well. I thought the O-line did some good stuff blocking. I thought the almost Curtis Samuel touchdown, I thought was a beautiful design. I thought it exploited something that Miami did really well and really put your playmaker in excellent position to be successful. It's just the good isn't always good enough. There isn't enough good, I guess, to kind of offset, and that gets reflected in the score. So I think there are a lot of individual things that were very positive. There were some individual plays that were very positive, but ultimately the negative plays are very, very negative, and you just can't afford to have those kind of mistakes against a team that's as talented as Miami with the explosive team speed that they have. So, and I really thought, also kind of high level, Ron, I thought understood kind of the assignment in terms of how to beat Miami. I thought you saw a lot more pressure today. I thought guys in the back end were a little bit more on their P's and Q's, but the pressure didn't get home, and it leads to explosive plays. So, and that was kind of the razor's edge we were going to be walking here in this game, and the team was going to be walking, and the result is not good. So
yeah, the result is really bad. And the thing is, big plays versus some teams are contested catches. I mean, the catch that Tyreek Hill makes, the second touchdown, is crazy.
He's the best receiver in football. He's the best receiver in football, and I think you got to see why on that play. His explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, his ability to adjust to the football. There's probably 3 dudes in the NFL that can make that type of body adjustment at the speed he's running. So
there's no one else that can do it at the speed he's running, because no one else runs as fast as he does. And the thing is, like, it's a bad ball from Tua, quote unquote bad ball. He throws it over the wrong shoulder. Tyreek not only has the ability to relocate the ball, twist, find out where it is, but he's so separated that he runs underneath it and still has room to score. Like,
like a punt kind of.
You see balls like that are bad balls like that guys catch, and then they will get tackled instantaneously. He has so much separation that he's able to score on it. It's just a freakish level play. But you do see some other coverage breakdowns, obviously, at times. I want to go to the offense, though, for just a moment, because I think this is the biggest concern right now with this team. Is the offense had some really nice performances earlier in the season, and from a production standpoint, it does really feel like they have taken a step back. They're slowing down. Ron talked about missed opportunities post game. Sam said it's some of everything. I was talking to Logan Thomas about this, and he said the same thing. Like, it's hard because it's some of everything. There's not one thing to pinpoint. But when you see it a little bit more detailed, what do you see that they're not able to break 20 points yet again?
Yeah, so this is going to be – it's kind of tough to talk about this because we don't have the all-22 yet.
Yeah,
So as soon as we have it, I'll be able to give you like a more detailed understanding. But at least my immediate reaction to this is that when you look at some of those coverage opportunities, teams are matching the concepts that the Commanders are running at a really high level. There's not a lot of air in the coverage. There's not a lot of opportunity for separation. Guys kind of, I don't want to say they know it, but they're matching it very, very well. And obviously the Curtis Samuel play is exceptional. But then if you look at every other explosive kind of big play in this game, it's Sam escaping the pocket and elevating the offense. And I think that's the thing that is really, really challenging to negotiate as an analyst, because you look at what Miami does, and everything they do is designed to put you in conflict and make the defense kind of second guess themselves. And here, this feels very, very traditional in terms of approach. And obviously, they've had success with that at points in the year. But I do feel like some of these better defense, some of these more talented defenses, some of these teams that are better at the man match stuff are man matching better. And I think it's making it more difficult for Sam to elevate and do some special things. And to be fair, like there's a choice route that they run early in the game to Jahan. I think it was in the second quarter. Jahan just takes too long on the choice. Sam has to escape the pocket. He finds Curtis down the field for an explosive play. That's Jahan taking too long, right?
Right. Logan said that there's a couple times where he thinks he could have separated faster, turned faster for the ball, et cetera.
Right. And I think there's some of that going on. So there's the details, but also I just say, and again, maybe this is the OC and me coming out or dealing with Kyle or talking with Mike McDaniel. There's a hunger and a passion to elevate every single position on the field. And there's times where I'm like, is that putting him in the best position to make a play or be successful? And the answer is unknown to me at this point. I'll know better when I watch the L22.
Yeah, that's fair enough. One of the big talking points after the game and the pressers, et cetera, I'm going to guess that our friend Sam Fortier has a story on this coming because he was asking many of these questions. Terry McLaurin, just 3 targets on the day, no catches. I think it's the second time he's had no catches in his career. I mean, what do you make of that? And, is that, when you talk about the approach, I think it's interesting. The biggest, to me, discrepancy between like a new school and an old school approach is a lot of these new school coaches are like, who are my playmakers? How do I get them the ball?
Right.
Old school is like, here's the scheme. It's going to work and get guys open. And it does feel like teams defensively have been able to match up with Terry well. He's obviously playing one of the best today, Jalen Ramsey. And then there's not kind of a dedicated effort to get him the football. That's kind of a very, very broad view of it. But why are we, again, talking about Terry and his lack of production here?
And this is, I think, kind of maybe goes in line with the first point I made about the way teams are matching concepts. Because Terry, we talked about Terry while he's a very skilled route runner, very dynamic athlete, very competitive at the catch point, not a great separator in the sense of like a Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill or whatever it is. And so I think the fact that teams are getting more familiar with the concepts that they're running and matching concepts better make it more challenging for Terry to do something that he's not excellent at, which is separate. So I think that's part of it. Also game flow and reading through the progression is a big part of this, right? And so we've talked about how, like there needs to be, when you're reading through the progression, maybe Terry's the number one read. Maybe you position it so that Terry's in that position as opposed to him being the third guy or whatever it is. So I think it's a combination of things. And again, this is something we'll know better once we watch the L22. But it is a little bit confounding. And I think it's interesting that most of Terry's targets in the last couple of weeks have come on quick game. And for whatever reason today, that was not a priority for this offense in the same way that it has been the last couple of weeks. So interesting.
They ran the ball way more today than they have. And to the point that some people were getting a little snippy on Twitter because apparently on the broadcast, Rivera told Christina Pink at halftime that like, hey, we're down 31-7. We got to run the ball more. So I'm not sure the exact context of that, obviously being here at the stadium. Like if you're watching on YouTube, you can see we are. You get to hear exactly the context of that quote, but it makes me think that there was a clear directive to run the football more, and maybe EB kind of subbed the run game with some of that, or subbed the quick game with some of that rushing.
Maybe, and I think what Ron's probably talking about there is there's this knee-jerk reaction in those situations to start throwing the ball a ton, and versus a Vic Fangio defense, when they do place such a huge emphasis on coverage structures, you can't totally depart from the run. Right, it's got to be still a feature of what you're doing. So I think that's something that maybe he was alluding to. And again, we didn't hear the quote, but I know that sounds probably bad, but I think versus this defense and versus this style of defense, you need to keep that as a feature or some type of run, a pass kind of run changeover.
Substitute.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So Sam Howell, I think, is in a very, very interesting spot now over these final 4 games. It does feel more like ever before that he's kind of playing for his job for next year. Obviously, there's a million factors in this, which is going to start with who is available depending on where they draft and how does that quarterback, potentially your quarterbacks, how do they compare to Sam? All Sam can control right now is how he plays.
Yeah.
The off-schedule stuff's insane.
It's awesome.
And I think that before we talk about maybe why he's having to be off-schedule so much, it's important to point out that is a very rare trait. And the ability to make plays in this league matters a lot. It is one of the reasons I would be extremely hesitant to go in a different direction unless I love one of these quarterbacks, because I feel like I can keep putting him in better situations on schedule. I think the thing that we need to get a feel for over this final 4-game stretch of the season from Sam is how much of this stuff that's happening on schedule, how much of the sacks, how much of the pressures are happening because he's missing stuff in the rhythm of the offense.
That's absolutely right.
Versus breakdowns from the offensive line, receivers not doing their job on time. How much of this is quarterback adjacent? How much of this is how much of this is non-quarterback adjacent.
I think that's a great point. Like we got the Philly 49ers game on here in the background, and you see Brock Purdy anticipating throws. And that's something that when you watch Sam Howell, he doesn't have a great feel for those anticipatory throws. And in this offense, in this West Coast offense, that's a huge feature of it. When you watch Tua, not the strongest arm, but he anticipates throws at an extremely high level. Like when he's throwing that drift, when he's throwing that dig, when he's throwing the corner of the pylon, whatever it is, that ball's out before the receivers made the break. And that's understanding the concept, that's trusting the concept. And I'm not sure Sam's there yet. So when we go back and watch the All-22, I think we'll be able to kind of give a better feel for, hey, there's not a lot of air here, but if he throws this with a little anticipation or he gets to the backside dig a little bit quicker, there's an opportunity there. But I also think it's important to the more I'm thinking about it, the more we're talking through it, it becomes apparent to me just reflecting on the game that sometimes it's the play call, sometimes it's the receiver, and sometimes it's Sam. And that's another sign of kind of a young offense, because I can think of a couple just off the top of my head where Logan's running the backside dig, and that's been open a ton for like Jalen Hurts, for example, and it's completely blanketed here, right? And is that Logan? Is that running that concept too frequently? But I'm sure everyone should take a little bit of responsibility and ownership and say, I could do it better. So I think,
and to Sam's credit, by the way, he did.
He always does, and that's a fantastic element of leadership that he always seems to bring to those post-game pressers. And I think it's one of the things that makes him special. But so to your point, is he's improved in terms of taking sacks. He's improved in that area. Can he improve in this area? It seems like yes. And he just seems like the type of kid you want to bet on, especially given some of the off-schedule stuff he's been able to get to. But to be a good quarterback, you got to work within the schedule of the offense. And again, we'll know when we watch the All-22, but that's something we definitely got to keep an eye on.
I think you made a great point a couple times this week, podcast, pregame show, probably other places too. Like this is on track for like a Jalen Hurts model. Yeah. Obviously, Jalen's taken it to an MVP level, and who knows what Sam will eventually cap out as from a ceiling standpoint. But if you have a guy who does something special, you continue to work with him. Yeah. You might be able to develop him into a better on schedule, in rhythm quarterback. That's the model. There's also been a ton of guys who make crazy plays and can't ever get it right from in the pocket or never figure it out. They wind up being backups or wind up out of the league. So it can go any number of directions. Your best case scenario is a Jalen Hurts.
Also, to your point, though, and I think to this general point, is the thing about Jalen Hurts is his intangibles, his leadership off the field, his work ethic. Yeah. And he was able to develop. There were times his rookie year or his first year starting where I thought, there's no way he can progress. This is going to be a fatal flaw for a long time. And every single week, he got a little bit better at it. And you see those improvements from Sam, which is very, very encouraging. So, again, it's still 4 games left. Still a lot of the evaluation still that needs to be fleshed out. But I think some of those reasons to be optimistic are Sam's willingness to improve, the leadership stuff you're talking about, the way he resonates with the guys. It's all stuff that you saw with Jalen Hurts. Now, that's not the end all be all. You ultimately need to be a good football player. But I think there's enough shades there to say, hey, there's a piece here we can build around.
I think you said it well. Like, I wouldn't bet against Sam Howell. I still, like, I know it hasn't been pretty, but I would not bet against Sam Howell because I think that dude's made up of the right stuff, and I think he's got great physical talent, and we'll see ultimately where it winds up. All right, let's circle back to end where we started, the defense.
Sure.
They're playing the Miami offense, and I think that is the most important factor in this game. Yeah. But what did you see? I mean, no one's going to say there could possibly be any improvement when you're down 31-7 at halftime. Obviously, there's a pick six in there as well. By the way, not great for Sam. 3 straight games with a pick six. Less than ideal. That's just a great play by the defender there. But at the end of the day, defensively, they still give up a ton of points. They only forced 1 punt in the first half. Miami, even at the end of the game, I said to Mitch Tischler with his I remember because I said it out loud, 7:44 to go. And I go, Mitch is about to be a long 7:44. Start playing on my phone a little bit, peruse Twitter, keep an eye on the game, obviously, but it's out of reach at that point. I don't think I missed much. Next thing you know, it's a 2-minute warning. Yeah. Miami's just able to bleed it down. Yeah. Miami literally got whatever they wanted. But did you see a difference at all from what it's been? Yeah, so I thought there was more, like, because I do like a preliminary kind of like red-green on my notes when I'm watching the game, and there was much more green defensively. There was a great coverage play by Cam Curl where he's like running with where like that's a touchdown 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? There's a reverse where the backside defensive end stays home and makes the tackle. KJ Henry on like a little jet sweep action, tackle for loss. Like those types of plays, I think people forget them, rightfully so, because there's a lot of bad ones, right? Right. But there were, and Cody Barton did some like he did this thing today, which was absolutely beautiful. I've not seen anybody play it like this. RPO action with the slide to his side. He
he matches the slide, then falls under the seam that's completed, but it's like a bang, bang play. And every other team that I watch play that, it's wide open for like a 15-yard gain. So there were some really nice things that were done today. You know, guys playing gaps. I thought Casey Toohill handled the transportation stuff they did really, really, really well. Great stuff there. But there are individually good plays, right? And this is the kind of the messed up thing about defense is you need to put 3 of them together back to back.
Right.
If you put 2 of them together and one's an explosive, bad drive, right?
Yep.
So I think there was a couple sequences like that. Even the one, I think to the Tyreek touchdown, the first 3 plays in that sequences were great. The guys did the right stuff.
I mean, those touchdowns are coming on 3rd down. And I will say that's the, I think, disheartening, disappointing thing is it felt like McDaniel knew, hey, if we get to 3rd down, they're going to play man, and then we're just going to call something, and our guys are better than their guys.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it felt like. There was inevitability still in that way about it, but I feel like the inevitability came from Miami more than it did. Like, it's a combo. Obviously, it felt inevitable because this defense is not very good. But I am very curious. Even this game is the first batch of pancakes.
Yeah,
you know what they say
100%.
about the first batch of pancakes?
Not great.
Chuck them out.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out your griddle temperature. I had made pancakes yesterday. You try to figure out your griddle temperature. You're trying to get the color right. You're trying to get the recipe right. You just throw them out. To me, for like what this defense can be under Rivera, not that it matters in terms of playoffs or whatever, but in terms of the evaluations, I'm way more interested when you're not facing the best offense in the league and when you're not doing it on 1 week of coming in and trying to install it.
Yeah, and even like the PI that Benjamin St. Juste said.
I thought it was terrible.
I thought that was a good technique. I thought that's exactly what you want. And could you throw it there? Yeah. And so to see that kind of improvement and that kind of understanding, quote unquote, from the guys in the back end, I thought was a nice step. Now it's a step and it's a long journey to get to where I think the fans, this team, everybody's expectations are regarding this defense. But there were some things that I was like, okay, this is much better than in Dallas. This is much better than whatever.
My hope is that it's playable enough to evaluate some players over the next 4 weeks. You saw some snippets today where that seems feasible. Would obviously help when you're not facing Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, and I think like in the other one, like Percy Butler they're in like a 2-minute situation. He's playing that third safety. He has a nice PBU, which is something that he's had a hard time with, you know. And so to see those types of plays, very important. But again, 2 explosive plays to the best receiver in football, and then a touchdown on an interception return for a pick 6. That's 21 points just right off the top. You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard to win a football game if I spot you any kind of points like that. So I think obviously that's stuff that needs to get corrected and hopefully will. And like you said, first batch of pancakes, hopefully it gets better from here.
Chuck them.
Yeah.
Eat waffles on your bye week or the next batch of pancakes. I don't know. We're done. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Our schedule stays the same in terms of the podcast, so make sure you tune in Wednesday for the film review. That'll be up first thing Wednesday morning in your podcast feeds. I will be on the Hoffman Show all week. Logan will be doing all the stuff that he does. We hopefully will have a couple of fun guests as well.
That'd be great.
Do some extensive film breakdowns. Probably do a Sam Howell film breakdown and kind of where we are for next week. So a lot of stuff to look forward to, and then these final 4 of evaluation. And we'll see you all of those places. For Logan, I'm Craig from FedEx Field. Thanks for watching and listening to Take Command. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 1067 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah, do what Logan said.
Do it.
Very, very smart.